So obviously, you and Lance have gone through a lot of ups and downs together. Lance obviously is no longer with us, which is a sad state of affairs for professional wrestling because he was such a great talent. But what was like your relationship like? Because obviously, at the first time, you put together. But what's your relationship before being put together? Do you know each other? Then obviously, as time goes on, the Redneck Wrecking Crew is kind of what they labeled you a little bit. But I loved that tag team. So what was your relationship like with Lance?
I had never met Lance before I started tagging with him. I had seen him on TV when he was tagging with Mark Jendrak.
Yeah.
And now at the time, I'm doing Trevor Rhodes, the bastard son of Dusty Rhodes. And I got blonde hair. I'm not jacked, but I'm lean. You know what I mean? I'm slender. And I turn on Monday Night Raw and I see this blonde haired, 280-pound jacked gorilla that is basically the A version of me being the B version. And I'm like, wow, I'm never going to get up there with this gimmick. They've already got one of me, and he's way, way better. So when I finally did get my opportunity, I was supposed to go to developmental and start there. I got a call like 2 weeks after I got my deal, and they said, "Hey, listen, we're going to bring you in and tag you with this guy named Lance Cade." And I was like, "Okay, great. Like, I wonder how this is going to work. This pretty bastard and my ugly face. How are we going to make this work?" We had our first match, and I don't know what it was, but him and I just immediately clicked. It felt right. Um, we had that first match. I said, we're gonna bring you back tomorrow night and have you guys wrestle again. And what was supposed to happen was I was gonna wrestle with Lance one weekend. The next weekend, Kevin Thorne, who was doing the vampire gimmick,
Mm,
wasn't doing it yet, but he was the guy that was going to be that. He was going to tag with Lance, and they were going to see who the better tag team was, and then move forward.
okay.
So after the second night, Johnny comes up to me and Lance and says, "Listen, Lance, you've wrestled with Kevin down in OVW. We don't need to bring him up here next weekend. Who do you think you'd have a better tag team with?" And I for sure at that moment realized, like, well, Lance and Kevin are friends. Like, so I'm this isn't an option for me.
Yeah.
Um, but Cade spoke up and he said, "Listen, I feel like I got better chemistry with Trevor. I feel like him and I are on the same page with everything. I think I would have a better tag team with Trevor." And Johnny goes, "All right, you boys are on the road next weekend." And we started live events and doing house shows. Um, we got into the car. When he told us that, we got in the car and went back to the hotel, and we're like, okay, like we're moving forward on this. So we just had to talk. And we were like, listen, we know WWE's reputation for tag teams. They don't keep them very long. They
Mm,
usually don't keep them together very long. But at the very least, if you're honest with me, Lance, and I'm honest with you, we both know where we're coming from and we've got somebody we can trust. Even if it's the hard news, even if it's the bad shit that we got to tell each other, as long as we're honest with each other, we're golden. You know what I mean? And we both had that same agreement. And that's how our relationship started, our friendship started. I knew I could trust him with anything because I knew him and I were thinking the same way, had the same ideas, and then slowly I started, he introduced him to my family. He introduced me to his family. And we just, bro, when you're on the road like that, you just become brothers. He was trained by Shawn Michaels. I was trained by Harley Race. Our psychology about pro wrestling was very similar in the thought process of everything. So we blended really well together in that. And plus, Lance and I loved the business. The business was always about the match, what story we could tell in the match. It was never about what move he could get in or what move I could get in or I want to shine more than you. It was about if this match gets over, we both get over.
right.
And that's the mentality we went into it, and it made every decision after that easy because it wasn't about him or I, it was about us and what was best for him and me. And so we just clicked, and we got to a point where like people would start realizing, well, if you see one, the other one's not too far behind. We were like brothers. We would
Yeah.
literally, I would, if I flew into the airport and I was there first, I would just wait until he flew in and we'd get a rental car together and we'd take off for the loop. and vice versa. If he got there before me, you just wait for me. It wasn't. We were a partnership. We knew we were making money together. We knew eventually they were going to try to split us up, which they did on two different occasions.
I know.
And they realized, wow, these guys are way better together. Let's put them back. And we were like, fuck, you take us? Why'd you split us apart in the first place? Um, and it's funny how that all came about because when they split us up, they had no plans to put us back together. We were kind of flailing a little bit as singles wrestlers, and there was a European tour coming up, and we begged Johnny, hey, listen, just put us together for the European tour. We'll put over, wrestle anybody you want. Just let us go make some money. We went out there and tagged that whole European tour, and the agents' reports that they were sending back to the office was like, these guys are way better together. They're a great tag team. We can do something with them. And we got back from that European tour. Johnny Ace pulled us in to the office at Raw and said, all right, boys, we're going to go ahead and put you boys back together. And Lance and I are looking at each other. It's about time, bro. Like, Stevie Wonder could see that this is a good thing. Let's
I
make
know.
money with it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
obviously, it derailed us for a little bit. You know what I mean? It killed some of our momentum, but we were able to get it back. And then just right as we were about to crest and do something special, they split us up again.
I know.
And it's like, fuck, like okay, you get to a point where you start building and you're like, okay, all right, we're right there. Like, we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. The fans are loving, are hating us the way they're supposed to. And a writer has a different idea. Or the other thing was too, like you didn't know who to like if you made somebody mad and you didn't realize that you made them mad, they'd go into the production office or production meetings and bury you. I remember I won't say the producer's name, um, but Lance and I on our first run were hot. We go do vignettes, everything's going well. And a certain producer that was there doing our vignettes tried to convince Lance and I that John Cena was a real thug, like really from the streets, like a real thug. And Lance had lived with him in OVW at an apartment, before he was John Cena and he was the prototype.
Yeah, yeah.
And, and we all know, like John, obviously not a thug, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this producer is getting angry because we're not selling it. Like we're not no, like this he's just John Cena. He's a regular guy from Massachusetts. Like he's not a thug. Well, this producer we got so angry that we didn't like cater to that conversation. He went into the production meeting and buried us and said that we weren't ready, that we were too immature, and that they didn't think it was the right time. And it was so bad that Shawn Michaels came out of said meeting and came up to us and like, what the hell did you say to him? And we were like, why? Because that cat just went in there and buried you to Vince, buried you to Johnny, buried you to the whole writing staff, and you guys aren't on TV this week. And so we explained the situation to him, and he goes, huh, well, that's some horse shit. And I go, yeah, that's some horse shit. And he goes, well, you boys better figure out how to fix it. Because it wasn't that Sean didn't want to help us, but he knew like there are some things that we have to do for ourselves.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? If he goes in there for every fight, every argument, we don't stand on our own. We stand on him. You know, um, and it took us a couple months to just like convince Vince that like we were a good tag team and that we should be on TV. It's just horseshit politics that I wasn't prepared for. Like Harley never told me in training, hey, listen, kid, you're going to do everything right. You're going to be everything they need, but you're going to piss off the wrong asshole and your career's going to be disrailed.
Yes.
It was always cream rises to the top. So when I got up there, like that stuff was really confusing and made me angry because I'm like, I worked my whole career to get here to have some asshole who's never been in a fist fight tell me how to do my job. And then when I don't do it his way, he complains about me.